Let's talk about our termination template. Termination, of course, is a very extreme measure and it's unusual, but there are times when you do need to seek termination. And we just have started a template here that you can add to. It just has 2 things on it so far. But one of the things in our template is reminding you that your evidentiary burden is based on the Holly factors. And the Holly factors come from the Holly case, and it lists out everything you need to prove. And so you're not just proving, oh, this is a horrible parent. There's an actual list from the Holly case, and you'll want to go through each item on that list and put evidence on to the court to show them how you meet all of those measures. And this is important because terminations are the most likely to be appealed. When you're reading cases coming out of the appellate court and Supreme Court, a lot of them are termination cases because it is such an extreme situation where somebody's rights are being terminated to their child. So you want to set up your case well with the appellate court in mind, and you want to put on evidence even if it seems repetitive, because probably your evidence is going to be the same. It just applies to all these factors differently. So the fact that they beat up the child and left the child for dead, or so on and so forth, didn't feed the child, you'll need to go through the Holly factors and explain how that applies to all of them. So for example, one of the Holly factors is, what are the desires of the child? Well, that may not even seem relevant to you because it's such a mess, but that would be something you could get in either through a child interview, through, if CPS is involved, through CPS, through CASA, through a child specialist, a counselor, that type of person. So you'll want to just make sure you're kind of doing a check off of all of these Holly factors. So that's an important thing to remember. And then we have the burden of proof in here. So it's clear and convincing evidence. And when you read the termination cases, sometimes they hang on a strange provision in the family code. And this is typically when CPS has been involved and is removing, because of course there's a lot of protections for parents that CPS just doesn't terminate people, or the DA on CPS's behalf, they don't just terminate people randomly. So you want to be clear what provision under the family code you're terminating under, and especially if CPS is involved, because they have to do certain things. So for example, they have to make every effort to reconcile the child to the parent. Well, sometimes they don't, because it's just ridiculous, because it's so obvious that this parent is mentally ill and substance abusing and doesn't care and isn't trying. They still have to be able to check that off. So you, again, are thinking about the appellate court. You want to have some evidence. So they can say, well, clearly there was some evidence and the trial court depended on that, instead of a record that has no evidence. So this is just creating a good record beyond the obvious thing that's caused you to even ask for termination. This is the technical side of this practice. You just want to create a really good record so that the appellate court can affirm the trial court. So that is our template on termination.